One simple wedding visit turned him into the alien princess's unexpected groom. He stared at the shimmering holographic message that floated in front of him in his small apartment on Earth, blinking in soft blue light. The message was elegant, formal, and entirely unexpected. An invitation to a wedding on Arden Prime, a distant alien planet renowned for its grandeur and intricate traditions. Ethan scratched his head. He was just a regular human, a technician who repaired communication devices for interstellar trading companies. Weddings, alien royalty, and ceremonial duties were far beyond anything he had ever imagined for himself. Yet curiosity won over hesitation. Ethan had always been fascinated by the stars and the possibilities of life beyond Earth. And so, he found himself on a sleek spacecraft, hurtling through the black expanse of space, the lights of distant stars streaking past like glowing ribbons. Around him, humans and alien diplomats moved gracefully, exchanging polite greetings in multiple languages. Ethan, however, felt out of place. He carried a small bag, his usual clothes slightly modified to fit alien standards, and a mind buzzing with questions. When the spacecraft landed on Arden Prime, Ethan was greeted by a world unlike any he had imagined. The sky was a deep violet, streaked with twin suns that bathed the city in soft gold. Towering spires made of crystal and metal reflected the sunlight, casting rainbow patterns across the polished streets. Flying vehicles glided silently above the city, leaving trails of light like falling stars. The air carried a faint hum, a rhythm of energy from the alien technology that powered the entire planet. Ethan's first steps onto the alien soil were hesitant. Around him, elegantly dressed aliens moved with poise, their skin shimmering in hues he had no names for. Their faces were sharp yet beautiful, with eyes larger than human norms and patterns on their skin that seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. It was overwhelming, exciting, and slightly intimidating. He was escorted to the venue by a young Arden official named Kale, who spoke English fluently but with a melodic alien accent. "Welcome, Ethan Carter," Kale said, bowing slightly. "The royal family has requested your presence at the ceremony. Please follow me carefully." "Traditions are important here." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and nervousness. "I'll do my best," he said, hoping his nervousness didn't show. The wedding hall was a marvel of architecture and alien design. Tall arches spiraled into the sky, adorned with glowing patterns that shifted color as guests moved beneath them. The floor seemed to float slightly above the ground, giving the illusion that they were walking on air. In the center of the hall, a platform glimmered, surrounded by intricate symbols Ethan could not understand. It was here that the bride and groom would exchange vows, but Ethan's attention was caught by a figure waiting near the edge of the platform. The princess. Princess Lysera was unlike anyone Ethan had ever seen. Her presence commanded attention, but there was a calmness in her stance, a quiet intelligence in her eyes. Her skin shimmered with a soft, golden hue, and her long hair seemed to float slightly, as if alive with light. Her ceremonial attire was beautiful and intricate, flowing like liquid metal, yet she wore it with ease and grace. Ethan was introduced formally as the alien customs required. "Your Highness," Kale said, bowing, "this is Ethan Carter, the human guest." Lysera's gaze met Ethan's, and for a moment nothing else existed. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with curiosity rather than formality. Ethan, feeling self-conscious, gave a polite nod. As the ceremony began, Ethan tried to follow the instructions whispered to him by Kale, but alien traditions were more complex than he had imagined. Each movement, each step, had a purpose, a meaning tied to centuries of culture. And then came the moment he did not understand. The officiant, an elder in flowing robes that glimmered with energy, began a ritual chant in a language that vibrated the hall with power. Ethan felt compelled to step forward when he was not sure why. The symbols on the platform glowed under his feet and a strange energy surged through him. The crowd gasped, some whispering urgently to one another. Kale's eyes widened. "No, that is not, it cannot be," he muttered, but it was too late. The officiant's chant ended and a hush fell over the hall. All eyes turned toward Ethan. The elder spoke, and though the words were in the alien tongue, Kale translated hurriedly. "The human who stepped upon the ceremonial platform has been chosen by tradition as the princess's unexpected groom for one ceremonial year." Ethan froze. "Wait, what?" Lysera's eyes widened in surprise, but a small, amused smile touched her lips. She took a step forward. "It seems the ceremony has selected him," she said softly, her voice carrying a melodic quality that made Ethan's stomach twist. He swallowed hard, trying to comprehend what had just happened. A simple wedding visit, he had thought. Just observe, perhaps meet some dignitaries. And now somehow he was considered the princess's groom. Kale, looking horrified, pulled Ethan aside. This is unprecedented. No human has ever been chosen. You must follow the rituals or it could be seen as disrespect. The palace will escort you to the royal quarters immediately." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "Follow the rituals, royal quarters. I don't even know what that means." The palace was a labyrinth of corridors, halls, and chambers. Ethan was led through rooms filled with alien art, floating lights, and devices that seemed alive. He could hear faint musical hums beneath the floors, a constant reminder of the alien world's advanced technology. Finally, they arrived at a room designed for him. It was elegant but simple, with soft light that adjusted to his presence. A message floated in the air, welcoming him to the royal residence. Ethan sank onto a cushioned seat, feeling overwhelmed. He had traveled across space for what he thought would be a cultural experience, and now he was entangled in alien customs he did not understand, and a title he did not want. Lysera arrived shortly after, accompanied by her aides. She moved gracefully into the room and sat across from Ethan. "Do not be afraid," she said gently. "The tradition is not meant to harm you. It is ceremonial, but you must respect it. You are a guest of the palace and now, in some ways, a participant in our culture." Ethan nodded slowly, trying to absorb her words. I don't even know how to act in this situation." Lysera's smile widened faintly. "Then you will learn, I will guide you, but understand this. What you do here will be remembered by many. How you behave will affect not only yourself, but the relationship between our peoples." The weight of responsibility settled on him. He was just a human, ordinary in his own world. Yet here he was, standing at the center of an alien society, expected to follow customs that could influence interstellar relations. Over the next few hours, Ethan was taught the basics of ceremonial etiquette. How to bow correctly, how to address elders, how to move gracefully across rooms with anti-gravity floors, and how to respond to complex questions from nobles and officials. Each lesson was challenging, but Ethan's adaptability shone. He listened, observed, and learned quickly. His human ingenuity allowed him to find balance on floating platforms, interpret gestures, and follow intricate instructions with precision. Lysera watched him with a mixture of amusement and admiration. "You are unlike anyone I have met," she said. "Your mind works differently, but you are learning quickly. That is valuable." Ethan felt a small surge of pride. For the first time, he realized that being human, curious, adaptable, and resourceful was an advantage, even in a world as alien as this. That night, as Ethan rested in his chamber, he reflected on the day. What had begun as a simple invitation had turned into an adventure that no human could have predicted. The palace was beautiful, the people fascinating, and the princess intriguing in ways he could not yet describe. He did not know what the next days would bring, but one thing was certain: his life had changed forever. And deep down, Ethan felt a spark of excitement. The unknown was no longer frightening. It was an opportunity. an opportunity to learn, to grow, and perhaps to make a mark on a world far beyond Earth. Outside, the twin suns of Arden Prime set in brilliant shades of purple and gold, casting long shadows over the city. The palace glimmered like a jewel in the fading light. For Ethan, the adventure was just beginning, and though the path ahead was uncertain, it promised wonders, challenges, and the possibility of friendship, trust, and respect in a society far different from his own. The morning light on Arden Prime bathed the palace in a warm glow. Ethan Carter awoke in his guest chamber, still feeling the weight of the previous day's events. He had come to witness a wedding, not become a ceremonial figure in an alien court. And yet, here he was, learning to navigate traditions that seemed impossibly complex. He dressed carefully, following the attire provided by the palace. The fabric was soft, yet it shimmered faintly, adjusting to the air around him. When he looked in the mirror, he hardly recognized himself. A human in alien ceremonial clothing looked important somehow. Lysera arrived soon after, moving gracefully into the room. She carried herself with calm authority, yet there was a gentle warmth in her eyes. "Today," she said, "we begin your lessons in our customs and society. The palace is not just a home, it is a center of governance, tradition, and influence. You must understand how our people think and act if you wish to avoid unintentional offense." Ethan nodded, still a bit nervous. "I'll do my best. I just hope I don't make a mistake that offends the entire planet." Lysera smiled faintly. "Mistakes are part of learning, but awareness and effort are what matter." Their first stop was the council hall, a vast chamber filled with holographic maps and floating symbols. Ardent officials, some tall and thin, others muscular with broad shoulders, moved around discussing matters of diplomacy and trade. Humans rarely interacted with this level of government, and Ethan felt slightly out of place. Lysera guided him through the room. "Observe first," she whispered. "Notice gestures, tone, and posture. These communicate more than words here." Ethan did his best to follow instructions. He watched as officials bowed, touched their chests, and shifted the color patterns on their skin, a form of communication that conveyed emotion, status, and intent. The subtlety amazed him. Humans relied mostly on words, but the Arden conveyed much more through body and skin language. "Now try it," Lysera said. She gestured for him to approach one of the officials. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding. He bowed slightly, mimicking the gestures he had seen. The official studied him, then gave a slow nod. A wave of relief washed over Ethan. "I think I did it right," he whispered. Lysera's eyes sparkled with approval. "You are learning quickly. That is good." The morning passed with lessons in ceremonial etiquette, alien dining customs, and polite conversation. Ethan discovered that even sharing a meal was an art form. Each dish had its own protocol for how it should be served, tasted, and complimented. One mistake could be taken as disrespect, but Ethan, applying human logic and careful observation, managed to navigate each step. During a break, he found a quiet garden within the palace. Exotic plants with glowing leaves swayed gently in the artificial breeze. Soft streams of water reflected colors that seemed to shift as he looked at them. Lysera joined him, her eyes following his gaze at the flora. "You seem fascinated by everything," she said lightly. "Humans often underestimate observation, but you notice details that even some of my people miss." Ethan smiled, feeling a small sense of pride. "I guess when everything is new, you can't help but pay attention, and everything here is incredible." Lysera's expression softened. "You are different from others I have met, curious, thoughtful, and honest. That is unusual in my world, but valuable." The afternoon brought a more formal challenge. Ethan was led to a chamber where a small group of alien nobles awaited him. Their purpose was to test his understanding of Arden etiquette, reasoning, and adaptability. "You are to participate in our custom of strategic discussion," Lysera explained quietly. It is a practice that trains leaders to think quickly and fairly. You must respond with honesty and intelligence. Ethan took a deep breath. The nobles spoke rapidly, presenting him with scenarios involving diplomacy, trade, and conflict resolution. At first, he struggled to understand the nuances. But then he remembered his human training, logic, empathy, and creativity. He began to offer solutions that were simple yet effective. One scenario involved a dispute between two alien colonies over resource allocation. Humans might have complicated it with long debates, but Ethan suggested a compromise that balanced the needs of both sides while respecting tradition. The nobles exchanged looks of surprise. Lysera's eyes twinkled with quiet approval. "Your perspective is enlightening," one noble said slowly. "Perhaps humans have qualities we do not see often." Ethan felt a rush of confidence. For the first time, he realized that being human, with his unique perspective and problem-solving skills, was not a disadvantage. It was an asset. The lessons continued with practical exercises. Ethan practiced navigating the floating walkways, learning to balance while gesturing correctly, and even participating in a mock ceremonial dance. At first, he stumbled, nearly losing balance, but with patience and guidance, he managed to move gracefully. By evening, he was exhausted but exhilarated. Lysera accompanied him to the palace's observation deck, overlooking the city bathed in the soft glow of twin moons. "You have done well today," she said. "Many humans would be overwhelmed, but you have adapted." Ethan laughed softly. "I'm still nervous. I don't want to make a mistake that ruins everything." "You will not," she assured him. "The people here respect courage and effort. You have both. That is more important than perfection." As they spoke, a soft alert sounded. A holographic display appeared, showing a message from the palace council. A faction within the royal court had questioned Ethan's presence and influence, claiming that no human should participate in ceremonial duties. Lysera's expression hardened. "There are those who resist change," she said. "They see you as a threat simply because you are human. We must address this carefully." Ethan felt a mixture of fear and determination. "What can I do?" he asked. "You must show them that your presence is not a threat but a benefit," Lysera replied. "Through your actions, through your respect for our traditions, and through your understanding, you can earn their trust." The next morning, Ethan found himself in a council debate, seated among nobles and officials. The discussion centered on trade agreements and diplomatic alliances. Ethan listened carefully, noting both the spoken words and the unspoken signals. The subtle color shifts, the gestures, and the tone changes. When it was his turn to speak, he presented ideas in clear, logical terms, combining human problem-solving with the knowledge he had gained about Arden society. His suggestions were not radical but innovative enough to surprise the council. A tense silence followed. Then slowly the officials began nodding. Lysera's approving gaze gave him courage. By the end of the session, the council acknowledged that his input had value, even if unconventional. That evening, Ethan and Lysera walked through the palace gardens. The moons cast silver light over the sparkling streams and luminescent flowers. Ethan felt a growing respect and admiration for Lysera. She was not only beautiful but wise, fair, and unafraid to challenge traditions when needed. "You handled the council well," she said. "You did not try to dominate, yet your ideas were heard. That is a rare skill," Ethan smiled. "I guess being human has its advantages. We have to figure out solutions quickly, sometimes with limited information. It forces us to think differently." Lysera nodded. "And that is why your presence is important, not just for the ceremony but for the palace, for our people. You remind us that intelligence, courage, and respect are not limited to one species." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. For the first time, he realized that he was not just surviving this alien world, he was contributing. And in doing so, he was earning trust and friendship in ways he had never expected. The following days brought further challenges. Ethan participated in ceremonial councils, assisted in cultural events, and even helped solve minor disputes among palace staff. Each time, he relied on observation, empathy, and creativity, human qualities that proved surprisingly effective in alien society. Through it all, Lysera remained by his side, guiding, teaching, and occasionally teasing him when he fumbled. A subtle bond formed between them, based on mutual respect and shared experiences. Ethan admired her wisdom and calm strength, while Lysera valued his honesty, courage, and unique perspective. By the end of the week, the palace began to accept Ethan as more than just a ceremonial figure. He was a participant, a trusted guest, and increasingly a valued ally. Even the skeptical nobles began to recognize that his human perspective could offer solutions that had eluded them for centuries. One evening, as they watched the city lights flicker in harmony with the soft hum of alien technology, Lysera spoke quietly. "Ethan, you have done more than follow traditions. You have earned respect, trust, and a place in this palace. That is no small achievement." Ethan felt a mix of pride and humility. "I never expected this," he admitted. "I came here thinking I would just observe a wedding. I didn't think I could fit in, let alone make a difference." Lysera's gaze softened. "Sometimes the smallest steps lead to the greatest change. You have shown that even a human, someone outside our world, can bring insight, courage, and fairness. That is why you are here, and why you matter." As the moons rose higher, casting their gentle light over the palace, Ethan realized that his journey had only just begun. He had survived the challenges of the first week, learned the basics of alien customs, and begun to earn trust. But larger trials awaited him, challenges that would test his courage, ingenuity, and the very essence of what it meant to be human in a world far beyond Earth. And yet, for the first time, Ethan felt ready. He had discovered that being human was not a weakness, it was a strength. And with Princess Lysera as his guide and ally, he could face whatever the alien palace and its traditions had in store. The adventure was only beginning, and Ethan Carter was prepared to meet it head-on, step by step, lesson by lesson, heart open and mind alert. The palace of Arden Prime no longer felt like a place of wonder alone. For Ethan Carter, it had become a place of quiet tension, hidden looks, and careful steps. The smiles he received in the halls were polite, but some eyes watched him too closely. Whispers followed him, fading as soon as he turned his head. He had learned enough about Arden customs to understand what that meant. Not everyone accepted him. Princess Lysera noticed it too. One evening, as they walked through a long corridor lined with glowing crystal panels, she slowed her pace. "The resistance is growing," she said calmly, though her eyes were serious. "Some members of the High Circle believe your presence threatens our traditions." Ethan let out a slow breath. "I never meant to threaten anyone. I just tried to follow the rules." "That is exactly what unsettles them," Lysera replied. "You follow the rules, yet you change outcomes. That frightens those who rely on stagnation." The High Circle was an influential faction within the palace. They were not openly hostile, but they believed Arden society should remain untouched by outside influence. A human standing beside a princess, even ceremonially, challenged their belief system. The tension came to a head sooner than Ethan expected. A major diplomatic event was approaching. The Unity Convergence, a ceremony held once every cycle where allied worlds reaffirmed their trust in Arden leadership. Delegates from several species would attend. It was symbolic, political, and deeply ceremonial. Any failure would not only embarrass the royal family but weaken Arden's position in the galaxy. "You will attend," Lysera told Ethan during a private meeting, "not as decoration, as a representative of cooperation." Ethan blinked. "Are you sure that's wise?" "If they already don't like me, they will find fault no matter what," Lysera said evenly. "But this is also your chance. If you succeed, their arguments lose power. The days leading up to the convergence were intense. Ethan trained longer hours, learning advanced ceremonial movements, deeper political meanings, and subtle signals used during negotiations. He was exhausted but focused. He knew this was bigger than him now. On the morning of the convergence, the palace buzzed with energy. Floating banners shimmered in the air, displaying symbols of unity. Delegates arrived in ships of every shape and color, their escorts guiding them through the grand halls. Ethan stood beside Lysera on the main platform, wearing formal attire that blended human design with ardent tradition. His heart pounded, but his posture was steady. He had learned that confidence, even quiet confidence, mattered here. The ceremony began smoothly. Speeches echoed through the hall, translated instantly across species. Agreements were reaffirmed. The atmosphere felt stable, too stable. Lysera sensed it at the same moment Ethan did. A strange flicker passed through the holographic systems above them. The floating symbols stuttered. The floor beneath the platform hummed unevenly. Something was wrong. Before anyone could react, the central projection collapsed into static. Gasps filled the hall. The ambient lighting dimmed, throwing the room into an uneasy half-light. Murmurs spread among the delegates. "This is sabotage," Lysera said under her breath. Security moved in quickly, but confusion had already begun. The Unity convergence relied on precise synchronization between ceremonial systems. Without them, the ritual could not continue. Ending the ceremony abruptly would be seen as a failure. Several members of the High Circle stepped forward, their expressions controlled but sharp. "This is exactly why foreign influence is dangerous," one of them said loudly. "The ceremony has been compromised." Ethan felt every eye turn toward him. For a brief moment, fear tried to take hold. He was human. He didn't fully understand alien technology. He wasn't supposed to be able to fix this. Then he remembered something simple. Systems fail everywhere. On Earth, in space, in every culture, and humans survive by adapting when systems break. "Lysera," Ethan said quietly, leaning closer, "give me permission to act." She studied him for a fraction of a second. Then she nodded. "You have it." Ethan stepped forward before the High Circle could continue. His voice was calm, amplified slightly by the hall's acoustics. "The system failure does not mean the unity is broken," he said. "It means the tools failed, not the people." Some delegates listened. Others looked skeptical. Ethan turned toward the damaged projection system. He didn't know Arden code, but he understood patterns, energy flow, redundancy. He approached the control interface, ignoring the protests behind him. A technician rushed forward. "Human, you cannot." "I won't damage it," Ethan said. "Just let me see." Lysera raised her hand. "Let him proceed." The hall fell into tense silence. Ethan studied the interface. Symbols pulsed erratically. Energy was looping instead of flowing forward. He realized what had happened. Someone had overloaded a single ceremonial node, assuming the system would collapse entirely. That assumption was wrong. Humans never rely on one path. "Your system has backups," Ethan said aloud, more to himself than anyone else. "But they're passive." He redirected energy flow manually, creating a temporary loop that bypassed the damaged node. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't traditional, but it worked. The lights stabilized. The symbols reformed. A low sound of amazement rippled through the hall. Ethan stepped back. "The ceremony can continue," he said simply, "but I recommend inspecting the system afterward." Silence followed. Then the lead delegate from a neighboring world bowed deeply. "Unity is not about perfection," the delegate said. "It is about resilience. This human has demonstrated that." One by one, other delegates expressed agreement. The High Circle members looked stunned. The ceremony resumed, not exactly as planned, but stronger in spirit. When it ended, applause echoed through the hall, not loud, but deep and sincere. Later, in a private chamber, Lysera faced the High Circle. You attempted to undermine this event, she said calmly, and instead you strengthened the very alliance you feared. They could not deny it. Evidence of tampering had been found. The attempt to frame Ethan had failed. Ethan was dismissed from the chamber, but Lysera found him later in the palace gardens. He sat near a glowing stream, staring at the water. "You should be celebrating," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "I'm just processing. I didn't plan any of that. I just reacted." "That is your strength," Lysera replied, sitting beside him. "You do not cling to tradition when it fails. You adapt. You protect others even when you are afraid." Ethan looked at her. "I was terrified," she smiled gently. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite it." In the days that followed, the palace changed. People greeted Ethan differently, with respect, not forced, earned. Even some members of the high circle grew quieter. Their influence weakened, but a new question emerged, one far more personal. The ceremonial year was no longer just a formality. The people had seen Ethan stand for Arden when it mattered most. Rumors spread. Expectations shifted. One evening, Lysera spoke honestly. "The council will soon ask what comes next. Whether the ceremony ends as written or becomes something more." Ethan nodded slowly. "Whatever happens, I don't regret coming here." She met his gaze. "Nor do I." As the twin moons rose above Arden Prime, casting silver and blue light across the palace, Ethan realized something important. He was no longer just a visitor. He was no longer just a human guest caught in tradition. He was a symbol, and symbols carried weight. The greatest challenge was still ahead, not one of systems or sabotage, but of choice. A choice that could redefine tradition, reshape alliances, and decide whether a simple wedding visit would become a turning point in galactic history. And this time, Ethan knew, the galaxy would be watching. The palace on Arden Prime was quiet in the early morning, the twin suns sending soft streaks of gold across the crystal spires. Ethan Carter stood on the balcony of his chamber, gazing out at the city. The events of the past weeks had changed him in ways he could hardly have imagined. What began as a simple wedding visit had become a journey that tested his courage, intelligence, and heart. He heard the soft sound of footsteps and turned to see Princess Lysera approaching. Her hair shimmered in the morning light and her expression was calm yet serious. "Good morning," she said, her melodic voice carrying easily across the balcony. "The council will convene shortly. Today, we face the final step of the ceremonial year, the decision to honor the tradition or redefine it." Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had spent weeks learning the ways of the Arden, navigating unfamiliar customs, solving disputes, and earning trust. Now the moment had come to face the most important challenge, the law that had unexpectedly named him as Lysera's ceremonial groom. He nodded. "I understand, and I'm ready to do what's right for you, for your people, and for our worlds." Lysera gave him a small smile. "Then we will face it together." The council chamber was a magnificent hall, larger than any Ethan had seen before, filled with towering holographic displays, floating lights, and dignitaries from across Arden Prime. Nobles and officials whispered to one another, casting curious glances at Ethan. Some still carried doubt, while others had come to respect the human who had navigated their traditions with humility and ingenuity. The elder officiant whose voice had first declared Ethan the unexpected groom presided over the council. "The ceremonial year has concluded," the elder said, his tone grave. "The human has demonstrated understanding and respect for our customs, yet the law remains. How shall this matter be resolved?" A murmur spread through the chamber. Some officials argued that tradition must be honored exactly as it had always been. Others, inspired by Ethan's courage and the wisdom he had shown, suggested a reinterpretation, one that respected the intent of the ritual while adapting it to modern understanding. Lysera stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "We honor our traditions," she said, her voice clear and steady. But traditions exist to serve the people, not to limit their freedom. This law was created long ago, in a time when circumstances were very different. Ethan has shown loyalty, courage, and respect. These are the qualities that matter most. We propose a new interpretation of the ceremonial groom, one that symbolizes partnership, trust, and mutual respect, rather than enforced obligation. The council was silent for a moment. Ethan could feel the tension in the room, a mix of anticipation and doubt. Then, one by one, officials began to nod. Some spoke quietly in agreement, while others consulted with their aides. It was clear that Lysera's words, combined with Ethan's actions, had shifted the mood of the chamber. An elder noble, tall and stern, stepped forward. Your proposal challenges long-standing law, yet the humans' contributions are undeniable. Perhaps it is time for the law to evolve. The officiant turned to Ethan. Human, you have demonstrated qualities our people value. Do you accept this new interpretation? Ethan took a deep breath. Yes, he said firmly, I accept it. I came here as a guest, but I've learned that respect, understanding, and cooperation are what truly matter. I will honor your people, your traditions, and the trust you have placed in me. A wave of relief and approval spread through the chamber. The tension that had hung over the council lifted, replaced by a sense of possibility. Ethan felt a thrill of accomplishment, tempered by humility. He had navigated an alien culture, faced a challenge that could have overwhelmed him, and emerged respected and trusted. Lysera smiled, a mixture of pride and warmth in her expression. You have done more than follow tradition, she said. You have helped our people see that strength, intelligence, and courage are not limited to one species. You have reminded us of what truly matters. The council formally accepted the proposal, redefining the ceremonial groom as a symbol of partnership and mutual respect. Ethan's role was honored not as a title of obligation, but as a recognition of his integrity and contribution. For the first time, humans were seen as capable of participating meaningfully in ardent society at the highest levels. In the following days, celebrations were held to mark the new understanding. Ethan joined Lysera in attending ceremonies, feasts, and public gatherings. Citizens of Arden Prime came to see him not as a curiosity, but as a valued ally and friend of the royal family. Children waved at him in the streets, nobles nodded in respect, and even those who had once doubted him began to speak positively of the human who had bridged worlds. During a quiet moment in the palace gardens, Ethan and Lysera walked together among the glowing flora. Streams of luminescent water reflected the twin moons above, casting a peaceful light over the paths. Ethan felt a sense of calm and belonging that he had never imagined possible. You have changed so much in such a short time, Lysera said softly. Not just in skill or knowledge, but in how others see you. You have reminded us of the value of courage, honesty, and perspective. You have reminded us what it means to be human and why humanity matters. Ethan looked at her, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. I never expected to have this kind of impact, he admitted. I thought I was just going to observe a wedding, maybe learn a few things about your culture. I never imagined I'd be part of something so important. Lysera's eyes met his. And yet, here you are. Not because of chance, but because of who you are. That is why you mattered. Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. I guess sometimes, the smallest steps can lead to the biggest changes. They walked in silence for a while, enjoying the gentle hum of the palace and the soft glow of the gardens. Ethan reflected on the journey he had taken, from a simple technician on Earth to a human honored in an alien royal court. He had faced fear, confusion, and challenges that seemed impossible. But through observation, empathy, and courage, he had found a way to connect, contribute, and earn respect. The final celebration of the ceremonial year was held in the palace hall. Citizens, nobles, and dignitaries gathered to witness the new interpretation of the tradition. Ethan stood beside Lysera, not as a groom in the old sense, but as a trusted ally and partner. Together, they represented a new era of understanding, cooperation, and respect between humans and ardent citizens. Speeches were made, stories shared, and music filled the air. Ethan listened to the words of nobles who praised his integrity, problem-solving, and respect for their culture. He realized that what had seemed like an overwhelming challenge had become a testament to the value of humanity. Humans were capable not just of survival in alien worlds, but of leadership, insight, and inspiration. During the festivities, Lysera took Ethan aside. "Today is not just a celebration of tradition," she said. "It is a celebration of choice, understanding, and partnership. You have reminded us that our society can grow stronger by embracing the unknown." Ethan felt a deep sense of gratitude. "I could not have done it without your guidance," he said sincerely. "You believed in me when others doubted. You taught me your ways and allowed me to contribute." Lysera's eyes softened. "And you have taught us something too, that courage, honesty, and respect are universal values, that even a human from another world can make a difference." As the celebration continued, Ethan and Lysera looked out over the city, the lights reflecting in their eyes. For Ethan, the journey had been transformative. What started as a simple wedding visit had become a profound experience that reshaped not only his life, but also the lives of those on Arden Prime. He had earned trust, respect, and friendship across species. He had proven that humans could bridge worlds, solve problems, and inspire hope. In the quiet moments that followed, Ethan felt a sense of peace. The challenges had tested him, but they had also revealed his strengths. He had learned the value of observation, empathy, and adaptability. He had experienced the power of courage, integrity, and human ingenuity. And he had formed a bond with Lysera based on trust, respect, and shared experiences. The twin moons of Arden Prime rose higher, casting silver light over the palace. The city hummed with life and possibility, a world forever changed by the presence of one human who had dared to step into the unknown. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past weeks and the promise of the future. He realized that this was only the beginning. With Lysera as his ally, there were new challenges to face, new ideas to explore, and new ways to strengthen the bond between humans and ardent citizens. And though the ceremonial year had ended, the lessons he had learned, the friendships he had forged, and the respect he had earned would last a lifetime. He had discovered that being human was not a limitation, it was a strength. And with courage, honesty, and empathy, he could continue to make a difference, no matter where the stars might take him. As he looked at Lysera, standing beside him with the same determination and wisdom that had guided him throughout the journey, Ethan knew that together they could face whatever the future held. The simple wedding visit that had changed his life had become a story of growth, partnership, and hope, a story that would be remembered on Arden Prime for generations to come. And for Ethan Carter, the adventure was not over. It had only just begun. One simple wedding visit turned him into the alien princess's unexpected groom.